I don't want to personally get angry at individuals. I don't want to pick fights with individuals. In fact, I remember when I went to the WTO conference in Cancun and met one of the people that is clearly on the other side, and I was totally friendly and happy and whatnot. And then I met one of his colleagues a couple of years later, and he said, "Oh, you're the friendly one." So they passed around the word that I'm the friendly one. I feel like, first of all, as Devra said, there are people who have been convinced. There are liars somewhere, but I don't want to assume that whoever I'm talking to is a liar. The people I'm talking to are convinced that Monsanto is right, maybe the lied to, the victim. Now, there are people that made an entire website attacking my book, and there they spent months and months and months formulating ways to try and use junk science against my book, Genetic Roulette, and they misquote my book. So I know that they're lying. So I can say, these guys are liars. But it's very rare that you can look at someone and say, they know the truth, they're covering it up. And even if they cover it up, sometimes it's not for money, sometimes they're ideologues who believe this is so important, we need to protect people from the truth so that they go with the greater good. There's an element in all of this, which is a spiritual angle, which is that these guys have a manipulative energy and a very divisive energy. And if we come down to their level, even with the truth, we know the truth, but we somehow get sucked into their level, then we've lost on a spiritual level. We've lost on a heart level. And it's like we know the world we want to create. We want to create a healthy world. We want to create a world full of love, a world with happiness, friendliness. And so I had a very interesting conversation with a guy that blogs for Forbes, totally against me, just picks on me. We had like 5 conversations. We totally enjoyed each other's conversations. He wrote down, I have to say that I enjoy Mr. Smith. I enjoy his conversations, but he's bizarre in his thinking. Well, no, he's paid. But so I just wanted to put that out, that it's like, and another thing, you go out to restaurants and you find, okay, you're trying to avoid soybean oil or canola oil, and you find out it's everywhere. And the people say, no, we use vegetable oil. No, vegetable oil is soybean oil. And you want to get angry because you can't eat your favorite food anymore. And so you can get angry at the waitress and at the waiter and at the restaurant. You can get angry at Whole Foods because some of the things they sell are GMO laden. It's like, that's another stress. And at the same time, I say to people, if you accidentally or you can't avoid GMOs, don't worry about it. Because worrying is toxic. And now you have 2 toxins, the GMO and worry. So it's like there's a whole nother way to deal with all of these shoulds, do's, and don'ts. And that is with great compassion for ourselves and with others. I wanted to make that clear. Thank
Amen.
you.
Thank you. Can I bring up one more thing, Devra, about the cell phones that are noise?
The white
ambient noise, yeah.
Right.
For babies.
We're actually, hopefully, with Hippocrates, I haven't proposed this to Bryant yet, but we're actually going to have a contest, a global contest for the most foolish use of a cell phone.
Let's do it.
And it can be global. And one of and we may have one winner every month, but I'll give you a couple. One of them is a phone that plays white noise that you put under the baby's head to get the baby to go to sleep. Another of them, I'm not making this up, and you know this, is a phone app that you program mommy's voice so that when the baby moves or cries, the phone says, "Shh, it's okay now, sweetheart. Back to sleep." You can program a phone so that you can put it underneath the baby. This is not a good idea on so many levels. I don't know where to begin. Starting with the fact that I now, as a grandmother, can tell you, my daughter just had a lovely, beautiful, perfect child. And I can still remember when she was a baby. And you know, your period of babyhood with your child is so limited. The idea that they're giving it up to cell phones and wireless devices is just really sad. So all of these are foolish uses, and nobody can imagine the long-term impact. But as I showed in my talk that some of you did not see, the brain of a baby doubles, more than doubles in the first year of life. The skull of a child is thinner. The brain is going very fast. And therefore, we protect children greatly because we know that that's the most vulnerable time of life. Prenatally, when the brain starts to grow in the first trimester, there's nothing protecting it at all. It's just a bunch of cells. By the second and third trimester, there's the thinnest little skeleton growing around it. And babies' heads are very thin and soft. That's why when you drop them, which happens sometimes, they don't break because the skulls actually aren't completely full together. And we have to protect our young children for sure. And there are many foolish uses of phones, and we could have a global contest because some countries have stranger uses even than that.
Devra, I would like to suggest something. The iPhone App Store has criteria for which apps they take. So maybe you want to propose to them to never approve apps, for example, that you strap on a pregnant woman to monitor the baby over a long time, but that you never approve something that's placed, specifically around the head of a baby, and that actually becomes their criteria. Same with the Android, and so we can't eliminate the use of cell phones in those cases, but you can certainly eliminate approval of apps that could be used that are designed specifically in those crazy ways.
Right. We are we've started those conversations with Silicon Valley. I have a talk I'm giving in a month there to the Silicon Valley Health Institute. So they want to know about these things, and I will let you know how far we get on it. But I'll tell you one story. Steve Jobs, in the 6 months before he died, personally rejected an app for the iPhone called Talk On, Tawkon. If you don't have an iPhone, you can get it. What Talk On does is it has an algorithm in the phone, and it tells you when you have the phone too close to yourself or when the phone is giving you too much radiation. It exists. It was developed, of course, by Israelis. And there's another company called Green Swan that has something that they sell as well. And Apple will not sell it.
Could you repeat both of these?
Yes, sir. Talk On is Tawkon, and the other company is Green Swan. And there's another company called Pong Research, and they all make devices that actually do have the effect of either telling you when there's too much radiation, or in the Pong case, it actually reduces the amount of radiation absorbed into your body. So these things do exist. We would like to see them standard. Why shouldn't all phones have lights that flash when the phone is giving you more radiation? Why not? I mean, again, we need girl cots.
You got it.
We need people to say we want the right to purchase safer phones and wireless devices. We want devices that automatically turn themselves down when they get too close to somebody and the radiation's too high. Right? There are proximity sensors in the iPad. I'm not sure quite how they work, but they had to do that because the iPad is too hot otherwise. It's very hot.
And then could you?
Yep.
I'm jumping in. Can you address some of the phones are? Somebody told me, and I don't know this to be true or not. Samsung puts less radioactivity out than iPhone. You know anything about that?
Yeah, it's true. Samsung phones measure that they emit less microwave radiation, and it's microwave radiation. It's not radioactivity like from the X-ray or the comet or the cobalt, the stuff that's out there in outer space. It's not that. It's non-ionizing, but it is microwave radiation. And the Samsung phones generally test with much lower amounts of radiation coming from them than the iPhone. Okay, if you have an iPhone, you know how your battery's always running down?
Right.
Well, guess what? Half of that battery is going right into your body. When you keep that phone in your pocket, how many of you were not here when I went through the safety warning on the iPhone? How many were not here? So most people saw that warning. Buried inside your phone, there is a warning, and it tells you that if you keep the phone in your pocket, you can exceed the as-tested exposure guidelines. And no one's ever filed any lawsuits against me for telling people this. It is the truth. It's in the phone. And the interesting thing on preemption is that the San Francisco passed a law saying you had a right to know about cell phone safety radiation, specifically about this fact. And they were defeated by the cell phone industry that spent millions of dollars because the industry argued, and I'm not making this up, we can tell you buried inside our phone about how to use the phone safely, but you, San Francisco, cannot compel us to tell you before you buy the phone at the store where you're going to buy it, because that's compelled speech under the First Amendment.
And they won.
And they won. Right.
Okay,
Thank you
here
very
we are.
much.
Okay. Hi. This is also on the same topic, and Dr. Davis, you asked me to bring it up at the mic. So to expand on radiation, I was asking, what do we do in our apartment? I could turn my wireless router down. I could turn my cell phone off. But what do I do about the circuit breakers and the transformers and the adjoining wall to my neighbor who might have some equipment on that wall? How do I protect myself? And repeaters on the buildings, what do you suggest?
Okay. Well, the first thing is you got to know your neighbor. Really, it's a good idea, and you have to ask them, where do you keep your router? I think that we've got to really start to think about our access to that information. We have these cards, which we're going to work with Hippocrates to make available from websites. This says, do it with wires, practice safe phone. Practice safe tech. Practice safe tech, practice safe phone. The idea being we want to promote this sort of safety. So for yourself, of course, distance is your friend, but beware of weak signals, because when the signal is weak, the device has to work harder and is going to put more radiation into you. As to your home environment, generally, don't sleep with your phone on your body. Don't have a router near you when you're sleeping, or don't have it in the area where people spend a lot of time. In our house, it's in a closet, right, where nobody goes very often except when we can't find something. Sorry? A few feet, okay? And when you use your phone, you know, it's best to just have it on a desk in front of you. You don't need to have it on your body. And this little device here is one of those that works pretty well so that you can actually hear.
And they're fun.
You know, and and this is actually lightweight. It plugs into most phones. You can actually hear with it. You can get them online.
Who was that comedian that used to talk on the phone?
Maxwell Smart.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. No. Yes. He had a shoe phone. There's a great line. He had a shoe phone, and
These are inexpensive.
and these are very inexpensive. But his phone was an actual shoe. Do you remember that? And he had a hard time making getaways because he had a shoe phone. If he was on the shoe phone, he couldn't get away very fast. But there was one incredibly funny gig that he did where he was making a call, and the operator with his shoe. So you have to imagine that he had a shoe, right, like this, and in the shoe, it was the phone, right. And he's right, and so he's making a call with the shoe phone, and I've got to find this because it was just pretty funny. And the operator says, "Hello," and he says, "Operator, I need to make a call to someone." She said, "That'll be 20 cents." He said, "Operator, this is a shoe phone." She says, "That'll be 25 cents." He says, "Operator, there's no way in the shoe phone that I can give you a deposit." She said, "Sorry, we can't make collect calls with shoe phones." And this was real, and so that gig that was from the 1970s, okay, at the time people thought the idea of a mobile phone was a joke. And the first mobile phone was developed by Motorola as a contest with AT&T, and they won. And why didn't phones take off in the 1970s? Because we didn't have towers. So in 1996, my administration with President Clinton passed the Telecommunications Act that made it illegal for anyone to raise a health concern about where a tower is located. It is against federal law. States and localities cannot preempt federal law, and you can put a tower anywhere you want in the United States. I was just on the line with India this morning. They have laws in India about where towers can be located. We don't. Right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So the answer in your home is this. Distance is your friend. You can unplug, and it's okay to do so. All right? And you can turn things off. There's a difference between the electromagnetic radiation that's powering the lights here, which is 60 hertz a second, that's 60 cycles a second, and that which is powering a cell phone, which is 2.4 billion cycles a second. So they are different, all right?
Cells are 75 hertz.
And the question of how much radiation they give, it's not the power of the radiation, it's the resonance, and it's the disruptive signal that goes. And as I showed in my talk, there's a radical change over a short period of time in the signal, and it's that change over time that we think is more biologically important than the very weak power of the phone. Phones are weak in power, and some people argued that therefore they needed no safety testing, and they have never been tested for safety. But in fact, the absence of evidence of safety really is not proof of harm, but it's not proof of safety either. Right.
Boy, we could have another. You want to continue this for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Then we'll think about Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Maybe we'll just move in here. Yes.
Thank you. I want to thank you all. You're fabulous. Dr. Davis, I love my electric blanket.
No.
If I warm the blanket and then
Turn it off.
Turn it off before you go in, is that cool?
That's fine. Let me tell you something else. This is very interesting. There were some studies, I think in the 70s, about some of the hazards of electric blankets. And the electric blanket company re-engineered electric blankets. So today's electric blankets are much safer. It wasn't a girl caught. It was the industry realizing that they were going to get in trouble. I'll tell you two facts that most people don't know that immediately make them think. In case you're talking to somebody about cell phones and they say, what are you talking about? They have to be safe. Everything's fine. Well, the two facts are these. Number one, most phones come with warnings inside the phone, and it tells you, do not hold closer than an inch to your body or something like that. That's number one. The phones themselves give you warnings inside the phone. It used to be in fine print that nobody read, but now most phones come with some warning about safe distance. Number two, you cannot buy insurance for damages for health risks from cell phones from secondary insurance companies like Swiss Re and Lloyd's of London. The secondary insurance industry will not write to protect companies from health damages from cell phones. That's a very powerful indication. Something is going on there. And in specific, Swiss Re recently wrote about why they wouldn't write these policies, specifically referring to asbestos as something they did not want to go through again on cell phones. So that's telling you something in the business world, right? Now, I have great confidence in American industry and ingenuity, and I know we can design safer phones, safer hardware, and safer software. You know, these devices are very valuable. They save people's lives. We all hear the stories. And even in 9/11, they left poignant opportunities for people to leave calls and speak to loved ones they might never hear from again. So I'm not opposed to phones. I just want to make them as safe as possible. As I said before, it's like cars and airbags and seatbelts. we can put the equivalent of airbags and seatbelts on these devices and on how towers are located. And I think, and we're making some progress, we just need to make it faster. Right?
So
electric blankets safe to leave on?
Today, thank you for Cherie. What I would do is I would turn it on because it's cold at night. I also recommend a warm bath with lavender oil. It's a very good way to relax, and it gives you another health benefits. But, if you don't want to go the old-fashioned route of a hot water bottle, then using it to warm up your bed and turning it off is fine. And I do believe, though, that if some people have some conditions, there are some conditions where you might need to keep it warm at night. They are a lot safer now than they were 30 years ago when people were expressing concerns about that wiring. Right.
All right.
And look, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Okay? For all of these things, including, I may say, when you eat your melons and the fruits and the vegetables and trying to keep it all straight, which is hard. You can don't go crazy. Just try. Trying to do something a little bit better is better than giving it all up.
Okay, thank you.
And I have to give a plug to hot water bottles because I've been using hot water bottles for decades. I love my hot water bottle. I even travel with a hot water bottle.
Really?
Absolutely. Dan has his and I have mine. I don't want his cold feet on me.
Okay. Very good.
And I don't want to inflict that on him either. But hot water bottles are fabulous.